Hey everybody, Mean Joe with Balsa USA. So we're here this morning with Colonel Jerry Jive Kerby. He's retired U.S. Air Force and his boss, Lunar. So we wanted to have these guys on. Jerry is I should say Jive more likely. Jive is a full-scale aviation air show pilot. He travels all around the country. He's certified in so many airplanes. I actually had the pleasure of kind of meeting him and hanging out with him in 2012 in Battle Creek. And just to give you some of his background, I already said he's a retired U.S. Air Force. He was a colonel in the Air Force. He flew the F-15C Eagle. He flew the F-4 Phantom, the T-28 Trojan. His air show airplane, or one of his air show airplanes, is the RV-8 Wild Blue. He also flies a Vampire for air shows and Reno Air Racing. And believe it or not, he is also certified rotor wing pilot as well. Good morning, guys. How are you doing?
Good morning. We're doing great. Early here in Vegas, but it's a beautiful day.
Yes, it is. We were fighting the sunshine trying to get set up, so I can completely understand. It's actually nice here, although it's kind of cold. So we had 60-degree weather for a couple of days, and now it's back down in the 30s again. So we're hoping that doesn't last very long. So for those of you that haven't watched an episode of this yet, what we're trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that we promote both RC and full-scale aviation. I'm trying to make sure that people don't forget about all of us people that are out there, not only in the RC air show field, but also in the full-scale aviation field. And being a self-proclaimed airplane nerd, I'm just going through and picking out all my favorites. So, and I had the pleasure of meeting Jive and Lunar in 2002 or 2012, actually, in Battle Creek. And we've kind of been following along with them since they started. And I believe, and I might be wrong about this, but it seems like that year in 2012 in Battle Creek, you were relatively new to the RV-8 air show scene. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the first year we did it. So we're still trying to get used to the airplane and what its capabilities were. But it didn't take long. I'll put it that way. The airplane's amazing. What it can do, just a stock, IO 360 motor in the front, 180 horsepower, and you can really do a lot of things with it. It's an everyman's airplane. And a lot of people have them. There's so many thousands of kits out there of just the RV-8 alone. So to be able to showcase what everybody has in their garage or at the airport, what it can do was kind of important to me. And that's kind of how we got started with the airplane.
Yeah, it was really amazing to see that because honestly, I'd seen RV-8s in a few air shows. And I know this show in 2012, you were still trying to get it shook out. But I was actually there day one. There's Lunar with our buddy Phil Dacey doing the announcing. Lunar's also Jive's announcer. She helps out. She runs all the social media pages. She's kind of crazy on Facebook like I am too. So there's a lot of posts and that's awesome. We love that. There, of course, is Jive's our RV-8, and that's right next to Rob Holland. And it actually was kind of cool for me because I showed up. I always show up a little bit early, and I'm going to go back here. I was able to take part in the practice session. I was able to see this whole thing go down, and you guys were shaking it out and doing some practice maneuvers and stuff. Did a little bit of, not very close, but safe formation flying, and did some stuff. And it was really cool to take part in that. It was really neat. That was actually the first time I had met you guys, so that was pretty exciting for me.
It was a fun show. We really enjoyed Battle Creek a lot, and an opportunity to take a brand new act to a show of the size and magnitude of Battle Creek was really a highlight for us that very first year with Wild Blue, because as you said, we were still shaking out the kinks and coming up with Wild Blue's story.
Yeah, we actually sat down. We didn't really sit down. We stood around airplanes, which for me was awesome. We had, let's see, at that year in the hangar, we had Rob Holland, we had Jive, of course, we had Matt Chapman, we had Matt Yonklin, we had Dracula, Kyle Franklin, the Flying Circus. They were all there, and that was probably one of my favorite shows. And that actually happened to be a blues rotation year. We oftentimes get the Thunderbirds through, but they swap back and forth with the Blues and the Thunderbirds, and that was actually a Blues Angels year. So that was a really cool show for us to see, and I was excited to watch you guys run it through its paces. It was really cool to see how that whole process worked. So
Like the balloons too. I'm a balloonie.
What?
I love watching balloons up there, and you see all those guys doing that in the early morning, and that was pretty cool.
yeah, actually, that's really neat and fun to do. I always try to get there for that because I've been, let's see, I've gone to the Battle Air Creek show probably for the last 10 years in a row. I think I've only missed 1 year in that whole time because we were on vacation at the time. And I go and take pictures and grab interviews and do videos and stuff for all of our stuff. But the balloon illume, what happens for me is I always miss most of that because they want the media guys in before all that happens. And it's hard to get both done. One of these years, I'm going to take a day and I'm just going to go do the balloon thing with the guys so that I could go and do that. I actually have a couple of buddies that do the balloons thing. And it's really cool. I like the night illumes and stuff and all that stuff. It's really cool.
I was more fascinated with the spot landing. Or where they had to fly over a certain spot and throw a sandbag down. And I'm going to, there's too many factors of nature you have to.
Yeah, they're pretty much at nature's call on that. Yeah, for sure.
It's much harder than flinging an RV-8 around the sky.
Now, I'm not sure if you ever have or not. Have you ever flown that air show that's in Anderson, Indiana, there at the Chesterfield Airport?
We have not.
Okay. So it's kind of the same thing. It's on a much smaller scale, but I grew up literally a block away from the Anderson Municipal Airport, which was like right at the end of my road and just over a block. And they have a balloon illume thing and they do the balloon races and stuff. We actually had several stuck in our backyard over the years. And that's kind of the reason why I got into the whole balloon thing is because we had them stuck in the power lines. They were stuck in the tree out back. I mean, we had them there all the time. And they, mom had a swimming pool in the backyard and they used to go by and they'd drop stuff into the swimming pool as they come over because they'd see us all out there waving and stuff. So that was always fun. So Jive, I know you were a colonel in the Air Force. How did you get started? Where did your interest in aviation get started from?
Well, I started long before I ever went in the Air Force. I took a ride when I was 11 years old at a county fair. My dad set it up. It was the one guy in my little small town of Lancaster, Missouri, had an airplane at the grass strip out there, and he was selling rides for $0.01 a pound. And I remember distinctly, I weighed 75 pounds, so it cost him 75 cents to get me a ride. And we went up and flew for about 10 minutes, and I think I was hooked. I remember that ride so vividly, even to this day. So that got me hooked at age 11, and I never lost that desire to do it. So at age 15, I started pilot training, and with the goal of soling on my 16th birthday, which I did. And she's going to tell the story in a second how I flunked my driver's license test because I wanted to go drive myself to go solo, and I flunked my driver's license test because I couldn't parallel park.
Too bad you didn't do that in 2020. You know, they don't even do that anymore.
I know. Exactly.
They just hit the button.
Now, if you live in New York, you still have to parallel park.
Yeah.
But,
so what airplane was that was your first ride?
Cessna 150.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
3622 Juliet. Any of your readers out there own 3622 Juliet. That's the airplane I soloed.
That is so cool. I wish I'd have known that going in. I'd have had pictures of it for you. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I was off a grass strip in Gorham, Missouri.
That's so cool.
Another famous airshow pilot, Steve Oliver, actually took lessons from the same flight instructor I did in Gorham, Missouri. They taught him how to fly, and he taught me how to fly. So
that is so cool. That is really neat. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that, see, for me, it was my dad used to take me when I was a kid to the old school Ghost Squadron Air Force shows. And that's what got me hooked on aviation. And I went into the Marine Corps out of high school. Now I think back and wish I'd have went into the Air Force, or at least went to aviation in the Marine Corps. But yeah, that's where I got hooked at, was early on going to air shows and, you know, the balloon thing in the backyard and that whole thing. So that's an awesome story. I love that. So, and I might be wrong about this, but it seems like I remember, aren't you high school sweethearts?
No. We did not know each other until Jive was in his first year on the airshow circuit as the United States Air Force Heritage Flight pilot for the Phantom. He was the squadron commander at Tyndall with that 82nd, and he got the Phantom put into the Heritage Flight program. And so he was at a show in Terre Haute, Indiana. And Dennis Dunbar, who is the air show director for EAA and AirVenture, was the air show director. And the team that I was already working for and on the air show circuit as an announcer and a publicist, we had been sponsored by Harley Davidson for the weekend from somewhere in Indiana. And we all had Road Kings. Well, I did not know how to drive myself on this Harley, but it was such an incredibly hot weekend on the ramp. And from the show center to where the performers were staging was quite a hike. And they didn't have enough golf carts to, pull us all back and forth. So I walked into a hangar and had these keys in my hand, and I said, "Who wants to take me to show center? I have the keys to the Harley out here. Whoever does it gets to ride me around on the ramp all weekend." And this guy here in a flight suit, and I remember rolling my eyes slightly, going, "Oh God, it's a pilot. It's a pilot." And he marched forward. Well, I could do it. And on the third try of starting it, Jive got the Harley started. I nearly fell off the back because by the third try I was going, "Oh, this guy is not know how to ride a Harley." And the rest is history. We became friends. And
hey, you got to understand, if somebody goes up into, I'm a pilot. I'm a techie guy. Somebody dangles the keys to a nice brand new motorcycle. You don't care who's dangling the keys. She just happened to come along with it. But I was interested in the motorcycle.
Right.
So the fact that I had the driver to show center was I don't care. I'm going to go get to ride a motorcycle. So, all right, there's a perspective that, most people don't know about it.
Sure. That's an awesome story. I love that.
With the deal. And,
Yeah.
So
it's gone on ever since.
yeah, and we now have a couple of Harleys. So we kept that in our family too.
Yeah, but can you get them started?
Yeah, I can get them started.
Finally.
Yes.
We can. And
See?
we actually returned to the Terre Haute Air Show 2 years ago. When they brought that show back, because once they heard our story, they were like, "Oh my God, we have to have you guys back." And it was so much fun to return to that location where we had actually met. Well, he was flying a Phantom, and of course we returned with a T-28 and a RV-8.
Now wasn't that the year you guys were flying the photography show with Billy Worth?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I borrowed some of video from our buddies over at Air Show Stuff. This was a pretty cool video I thought I'd share.
Basically, right out the door of the DC-3, the space right there in Terre Haute. They're gonna drop jumpers, for the opening of the air show. Right.
Yeah, and actually, funny story. I was actually at that air show when you flew the Phantom in the first Heritage flight. Because that's, again, I grew up in Anderson, Indiana, so that was an air show that was pretty close to where I was at, and I was always going to air shows and trying to check out as much as I can. And I'm actually gonna contact Billy here pretty quick and see if I can get him on as well.
Well, make sure you congratulate him and Courtney. They just had a baby.
I seen it. That's awesome. Yeah, he posted pictures. Yeah, there's the man right there.
That's right. Little Wild Blue, and you can tell from the pictures we've added the Fly Jive Fly logo and the Wild Blue logo to the wings since you saw us in 2012.
Right. Yeah. Actually, when I saw it, it just had the Wild Blue on the bottom side.
Yep.
So very cool.
We put a lot of lights on it for the night show.
Yeah, I've seen the lights being stacked up. Yeah.
The lights that come out on top of the wings.
Yeah, I'm going to be having the Red Line Air Show guys on here probably sometime next week, and that's one of their big things. I actually saw your let's see, I got to get I'm on a new setup here. I have your pictures, and I've been following all your stuff that you're going where you're putting the LEDs on and whatnot. So yeah, I'm excited to see that. The Red Line Air Show guys, they kind of they got an early start on that, I think. Them and Nathan Hammond, they got an early start on the whole LED night show. I think Kyle Franklin does a pretty decent one, but those guys went nuts with the LEDs, and that's become big in air shows now, and it's awesome to go see the night shows. I think that
Night
just adds a
shows are
whole
lot
nother
of
element.
fun.
They're really cool.
And there's only a few performers who still do them. Now, Ashley Shelton and Greg created a wing walking night show, which is very exciting. And to see somebody else in addition do one. Buck Ropeman does one. The Twin Tigers was doing one. And, of course, Redline. And, of course, Matt Yonkin does one, and it's fabulous. But there aren't as many of us who do it. Bob and Lori Carlton have one.
Yeah.
We miss Otto, the helicopter. They were a fabulous night show.
Yeah.
Nathan's got one with Ghost Rider, and we all know each other. We all follow each other because we're one big family. And when we were talking about Billy and Courtney having the baby, we feel like a new baby's been born in our family. We can't wait for it to be, for it to be on the ramp, and we can, say hello. And we've watched so many of these kids grow up. I mean, Kerby Chambliss and Mike Goulian, their girls are now teenagers.
I know, right?
And we're like, oh my gosh, I remember when they were born. And but that's just who we are as an industry.
But back to the night show. I mean, every one of them is unique, and ours tells a story. And it's a dedication to first responders, because Little Wild Blue has got red, white, and blue lights on it, and it looks like a first responder vehicle, be it a cop car, an ambulance, or a fire department kind of vehicle coming through. So we center our story around that with the music and the narration, and we do a dedication to any fallen first responder at the end of the show. So we want to honor those guys. They're out there on the front lines every day for us.
Heck yeah.
Like the medical workers are right now with the COVID-19 crisis going on. So
Exactly. Yeah. And it's awesome that you do that. Yeah.
There's only so many things you can do with a show at night. You have restrictions on you. This is a fully aerobatic act that we do, but like I said, there's only so many aerobatic maneuvers you can do, even in the daytime with an RVA, right? And the guys that have the very capable airplanes at night they're not tumbling, they're not flipping end over end negative G's at night. It's a very basic thing. So I think it's important that we tell a story, and it has a meaning for every pass that we do.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, and it's what's neat for me is it adds another element to the whole thing when they start doing the night shows. And I can't remember who really got it started. I know Matt Yonklin was pretty early with the beach. I know the Red Line Air Show guys. That's been something they've done for the whole time. There were a lot of twilight air shows. But then when the advent of the LEDs really started getting big and powerful, and the million lumen LEDs and stuff the guys started putting those on their airplanes. It really, to me, just added a whole nother element. And they'll run them. Anybody that's never saw them or went to see them, they'll actually have fireworks, and I've seen some stuff where the Tora guys get out there and they do the explosions and the pyro and the streamers and sparklers and all that stuff going on. It's really worth staying after. If you ever get a chance where they're saying they're going to have a night air show, you should go.
One team we haven't highlighted here is the Aero Chef team too. They their night act is famous.
Air show, yeah.
They do a fantastic job with the Ford T6s.
Yeah, and they was the ones that were pretty early on too. So
they were.
Well, and the other one who does fireworks and is a legend in our industry is Gene Soucy.
Oh yes.
We can't, and that's fireworks. We've stayed away from fireworks. We prefer the lights.
Yeah, I can see why.
It's just a whole nother logistical challenge, and you have to pick your battles, the different places you go and how much time you have available to do it. And it is time-consuming job to wire up all of the everything you have to do to get those fireworks to come off in a sequence fashion.
Sure. Yeah. And then the FAA has to go in and inspect it and make sure it's safe and all that stuff. Yeah, I understand. That's crazy. Some of the ones I see amaze me. Just it comes to mind. The airshell guys are a big one, but the guys with Redline as well, their lights are just incredible. They've got so much stuff going on. It's so cool to watch.
Yeah.
So
Ken and Billy do a fabulous job.
Yeah, they're actually probably going to be on next Friday. I think that's the plan.
Excellent. Two good
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great guys.
And
Absolutely.
John, when John and Ken built the airplanes that they put into the circuit, they special built those wingtips where they could integrate their fireworks package into the wingtip. So very innovative in what they were doing, to try to make it easier on them as they went to air shows.
Right. And then I was I was checking out Nathan with the Chipmunk. He's got the motor off. I think it's going to be just a little tail heavy right now, but once he gets that fixed, I know he's adding stuff and putting new pyro on and lights and all that kind of stuff too. So I'm excited to see that one going as well.
It's definitely what we do in the off season, and unfortunately our off season this year is a little further off than we would prefer. But, getting our airplanes ready is important. A lot of us will get our annuals done and any, new paint that needs to be done, new stickers, removal of old, putting on new. There's a lot of upkeep and management that happens in particular in the off season. And that's what, Wild Blue and Mad Dog, our T-28 have been, they're in Florida. They're not with us in Vegas. They're already in Florida. We were staged for Sun and Fun and the MacDill Air Force Base air show already with both airplanes. And they're being cared for, getting their annuals done, and they'll be ready. We'll be ready to fly as soon as we can. And we actually have a second pilot who flies Wild Blue now too. So Jive isn't maneuvering two airplanes around and then having to just have a ferry pilot. We actually have Josh Tater Boudreau, who was Thunderbird #2 back in the sequestration time period. So Tater has had this opportunity to be in the air show industry and yet have to sit for a couple of the years of the time that he's been in it for the short time that he's been in. And he was an incredible addition to our team in 2017. We were excited to add him. And actually, if you were at Terre Haute, Jive was flying the Circle of the Jumpers and Tater was actually flying Wild Blue during the show.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's really neat. Yeah, you guys added him. He came onto the team about a year ago. Is that correct?
3 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, Dover, Delaware in 2016, 17, one of those years, 17, was his first show. And he and I went off with the airplane to our first show together for him flying. He had done aerobatic camp and been flying the airplane and training, and off we went. Jive was out here in Vegas, and Tater and I were off in Dover, Delaware for his very first time at a show. And, it's always good to get that first one under your belt, and he did, and he's still with us, and we're glad. He's left the Air Force and is now with the Louisiana Air National Guard, finally flying a real fighter jet. He is flying the F-15C Eagle and transitioned over the winter months from the F-16 to that. And Jive, I think you had a few words for him on that.
Yeah, finally.
We were proud of him. He went home to Louisiana, and he and his wife and 3 boys are now back in their hometown community in Louisiana.
That's very cool. Yeah, it was a great addition, and I'd been watching that. Again, like I say, a self-proclaimed airplane nerd, I follow this stuff all the time. So that was a good addition, and I've seen you guys do a lot of stuff with that. So it's really awesome. Isn't that him right there?
That is Jive in Big Dog.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the late Valor Carey's T-33, and that was Jive's first civilian air show act that he did, was with the T-33 from Big Dog. And it is the reason why when we needed a second pilot and we wanted to grow Wild Blue, Valor Carey, who everybody called Big Dog, the reason that we added our own second pilot and opened it up to another demo pilot was Big Dog had done the same thing for Jive back in 2009. He allowed Jive to come in and fly his civilian T-33 on the air show industry. And so our only way, we could never pay Big Dog back. He was such a incredible asset within the air show community, and in particular the military community there in South Carolina, around Columbia, South Carolina, where he lived. But we could pay it forward. What Big Dog had done for Jive, we decided to do for demo pilots who wanted to stay in the industry and fly an RV-8A. We don't have a T-33 for them to fly, but we do have an RV-8 that tells a story and gets to be flown like a fighter jet. And that's why we added that second pilot, is to pay it forward from what Big Dog had done for Jive.
Heck yeah. And that's one of the things that really has drawn me to the aviation community as a whole, is because, you know, being kind of an outsider to the whole thing, I'm not a full scale pilot, obviously, but it's cool to see that, because I see a lot of the people at the air shows. I get a chance to hang out with some really cool people, and you can totally tell, like you said earlier, that it's a family. Everybody's there to help everybody out. Everybody's there to make sure everybody's successful. We had some stuff last year where we had some issues. I think I can't remember now if it was the SRC guys that had an issue, but somebody had an issue, and everybody's over there helping in the hangar. You know, you could see them over there trying to get stuff running. And it's really just comes down to, like you said, it's a family, and everybody's out there trying to make sure that everybody is successful. And we as spectators, and myself as a photographer and doing all the other things that I do, appreciate the fact that it's kind of the show must go on thing, you know, and that's what makes this year a little interesting, is because we don't have that interaction. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get this thing going, is because I wanted to make sure people were still able to get the interaction for what's going on, you know, so they don't forget about us, basically.
So me and Joe, you probably didn't know that I did some RC flying back in the day.
Really?
I did. Yeah.
Excellent.
When I was doing a mission in an unnamed foreign country where, you know, we couldn't bring a lot of people with us. One of the hobbies that we set up, and there was a big community of people doing expats over there, flying RC airplanes off a little desert strip. And yeah, I had a few RCs out there, and
that's cool.
I was never any good at it, but there was a couple of us fighter pilots out there that got into this. One of them was very accomplished RC guy. So we would get our little, you know, $60, you know, basic starter airplanes out there, something we wouldn't mind crashing.
Right. Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Do basic fighting maneuvers with them. So I remember one time we had our little piece of crap RCs out there, and we're up there and we're fighting each other, trying to hit each other. We didn't care, but we were fighting, trying to get on each other's tail. And there was absolutely no way after about 15 minutes that we could hit each other, because that's what we were basically trying to do, to get on each other's tail.
That's funny.
And brought those things down. We flew them like that for days and days. And then we got a fancier one, and we're going to, you know, it was a little more maneuverable, a little bigger engine, and we were going up and fighting those things, and not fighting them. We're trying to stay away from each other. Well, probably in the first 7 minutes, both of them came down in flames. Right?
Happens all the time. We do that constantly. So I go to RC shows all over the country, and we'll have combat. You know, we'll make combat wings, and we'll go up and we'll literally try to hit each other. You know, we'll put streamers on, and you're trying to cut the streamers, but everybody that's in it knows you're not aiming for the streamer. You're following the streamer to the plane is what you're doing. And that's what we're trying to do. And you will not have one single midair. And the first time you get two giant warbirds flying at the same field for an air show, inevitably they'll run right into each other. It happens all the time. It is. It happens all the time.
The more expensive the toy, the bigger the magnet.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's one of the things, you know, speaking with a lot of full scale pilots over the years, the guys that never really started out RC, they always tell me all the time, it's hard because they're so used to that pilot's perspective. Everything's weird to them because, you know, like if you're coming towards yourself, it's reversed, and there's all kinds of different things that you do. And I hear that all the time, that the full scale pilots are like, man, I don't do that because it's too hard. You know?
It's a different perspective, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So let's see. I know I wanted to touch base on a couple of things that are going on. I know with this whole COVID-19 thing going on, there are a lot of stuff that's out there. Folks are trying to keep their stuff visible. They want people to be able to see. So if you guys go over and follow Airshow 360, on April 18th, they're going to have a on-air Chief Pitts online air show. It's going to be free. It's going to be on the Air Show 360 Facebook page. It doesn't cost anything to go. You can go on here and check them out. Make sure you follow them. You're going to want to make sure you go over and follow Fly Jive Fly. You're going to want to follow Team 21. There's all kinds of different things that you're going to want to check out. Those of you that are on Facebook, go over there and check all this stuff out. If you're not on Facebook, I'd say go over there and create an aviation account and follow them anyway, because that's how we're going to keep this stuff going. If you've never seen the stuff that 360 Air Show does, their videos are really, really cool.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to.
360 was actually my partner's idea, Ed Lozano. He is a technical director and film and video whiz, and does a lot of work for a large sports league. He had created Airshow 360, had been doing live broadcasting of air shows for quite a while. And we partnered up because I had a different perspective, having been an announcer with airshow performers and been in the industry now almost 23 years. And he created this, and we teamed up and have created a very active social media entertainment with live broadcasting. And that's why when we saw that Chef Pitts, Clemens Kulik, wanted to do his own online air show, we reached out and said, hey, Chef, what can we do to help you? And we're helping him put on an online air show. Everything is online. It's a virtual show. The FAA, I actually had somebody ask me what permission we had to get from the FAA. I'm like, none, because it's all online. Chef picked out the friends that he wanted to invite to be on the show. We're going to have Luke Carrico and Bill Walsh as the airshow announcers. I'll be taking part as well, and a few of our other folks who have been highly involved with making Airshow 360 happen. And not only that, but our photographers are going to be a part of it. And we've got an incredible group of professional aviation photographers who contribute on a regular basis to Airshow 360. Aaron Hayes, he's up from Indiana. Trevor Griffiths, he's in Indiana. Mark Street, Owen Hewitt. Out on the West Coast, Mark Loper contributes to us. And I'm sure I've forgotten somebody, Mike Ullery, who is in Ohio. So an incredible amount of photographers that contribute with us. We have reporters. We came up with this concept of different reporters at different shows, sort of like AP does. You know, you send out your reporters and your photographers, and they cover all sorts of things. Even if you're covering just one main event and live broadcasting that, we still have people out at other events. And it's been an exciting time, because part of what we want to do in this off season is show what we've done in the past and do exactly the same thing that your group is doing, is keep people, the airshow performers, the air bosses, the airshow announcers, keep them out in the forefront of people's minds and the shows. We don't want people to forget, you know, some of these shows they're having to cancel and they won't be able to be back for 2 more years. We don't want people to forget and not show up in 2 years. We want folks to remember that, you know, we're doing this show online for free. Everything that Airshow 360 does this year is for free, that we do online. So it's because we know that everybody's hurting, not just us as performers, not just announcers, not just the guys like Dan McLaren who do sound, everyone, especially our audience members. And we want those audience members to show up when the first gates open and buy tickets,
right,
to whatever show it is, because that money goes to pay for the full day of entertainment, to pay for the performers to be there, to pay for the air boss, the announcer, the sound, everybody involved. So the reason we're doing our show for free, we're not asking for any money with Chef Pitts, is we know we're all hurting and we want everyone to save their money, show up at that first air show you can go to, buy the food, buy the hot dog on a stick, whatever it is, but
right,
be there to support all of us, because air shows aren't just performers. There's a whole background of people back there working it, from the people who set up the fence to the food vendors, to the performers. So, save your money, come to a show.
And that's, and that's one of the things I wanted to make sure that I covered is, we've got, and I'm looking at the website, I don't see any online stores for the 360 Air Show on here. But one of the things that I wanted to point out that a lot of these air show performers, and a lot of people don't understand this. A lot of these air show performers also work in commercial aviation, or they're ferry pilots, or all this other stuff. But a lot of them are air show only. So we have to try to support what they're doing. So if you can get on there and you can find an online store for some of these pilots that have shirts and hats and buttons and pictures and all this stuff, get on there and do that, because they need that so that they can continue to do the air shows in the future. It's very important that we try to support what we can with this whole thing going on with everybody being on lockdown, so that when we come out the other side, everybody's still viable enough to be able to go out there and put on air shows. It costs a lot of money to put on an air show, and it costs these pilots, a lot of them, it costs them a lot of money to get their airplanes there, and then they got practice time, and then they've got 3 days of shows, and then they jump in their airplanes and fly to another one. So it's a job. So make sure you're supporting what you can. Look up as many of the air show places, and if you follow Mean Joe on Facebook, you'll know that Mean Joe's all aviation all the time. So if you're ever looking for stuff to follow, jump on there, follow the stuff, and help these folks succeed. Because like Lunar was saying, we've got to share, we've got to post, we've got to keep this in people's forefront of their minds, so that when this all blows over, and it will blow over, we can get out there and go right back to business as usual. And that's here on our side. With the RC side, I talk to the people in my industry a lot, and I say, because they just yesterday canceled another big show for us, the Dayton Warbird Rendezvous, or World War I Rendezvous at the Air Force Museum in Dayton, got canceled and moved down to 2021. So for us, it's the same thing. Those first few shows especially are going to be crazy, because everybody's going to be all cooped up all this time, and they're going to want to get out. And all of us airplane nerds are going to try to do as much of that stuff as we possibly can. So,
well, and that's part of, for us, the best part of air shows for us is interacting with the audience. And being out there, signing autographs, especially for the pilots and the performers. For me, it's walking around, interviewing folks, talking to them, getting them over. We do the best thing that there's a concept in Reno air racing that I really love, and it's that every air racer has their own pit. And it's the same as if you were going to a car racing. You're walking around and you're getting to meet the mechanics behind the airplanes. You're getting to meet, everybody in that pit. And that was one of the things that we really enjoyed a lot when Jive and our new team Race 11, which is our race team, when we were at Reno this past year. And our fingers are crossed that nothing happens and we'll be back there again this year. But you really enjoyed that with the racing.
Yeah, they come to you. You're just standing in front of the airplane, and I think with air shows or racing or whatever, I think what we're missing out is these times that are hurting us is to be able to influence the next generation. All the kids out there that are on, tugging along behind their dad, being influenced by, the wonder of flight. We're missing out on those kind of activities for those kids. So.
Yeah, and that's important to us as well, because I try to all the time make sure that kids stay involved. We like to do. I'm a big fan of the giveaways for the trainer planes for the kids, so that they can get something that they can actually do. And it's just hooking on my aviation. I mean, we've been talking about this a lot lately with all the stuff with the regulations coming around with the FAA and all the stuff that's going on around surrounding the FAA, is that the kids are the future with both full scale and RC. The kids got to get interested in aviation. Kids got to have that experience, like going out when they were 11 years old and getting an airplane ride for 75 cents. And that starts their journey into aviation, because we get all of our pilots. We get commercial airline pilots. We get the racers. We get the air show pilots. We get the Air Force and the Marine Corps and the Navy pilots. That's where it all comes from. It all starts somewhere, and it starts with them when they're kids. Something happens. They remember that experience, like we were just talking about a few minutes ago with Jive. He remembers that day. He can even tell you the tail number. And that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for that interaction for the youth so that the youth get involved. And that works on both sides, because I feel like with us, we're kind of like the gateway drug. You get kids out there, you get them interested in flying their little gliders or their rubber band powered airplanes or whatever they're into. And then as they progress, they get into more stuff. And eventually, I know I've got several friends of mine that have transitioned as kids from flying RCs into being full scale airline pilots. So it's something that's, I think, dear to all of us.
And that's why we tell the story of Wild Blue. He dreams without a barrier. He's never going to be a fighter jet, but Wild Blue wants to be a fighter jet. And, I tell the story about both my pilots. I tell the story of Jive not getting his driver's license, and his mother having to actually drive him to the airport to solo. And it makes him relatable. Here's this fighter pilot with all these hours and flies everything. And it makes him relatable. Just as, Tater, Josh Boudreaux, he had a dream too. His brother was who influenced him to join the Air Force, and he excelled at everything, and he wanted so badly to go to Colorado because he had never seen mountains. He grew up in Louisiana, and he wanted to go live in the mountains, and he wanted to be a pilot because he met his brother's cool pilot friends when his brother was going through pilot training. And it's, what influenced you to get there? And we gear the story of Wild Blue to ages 3 to 11 because we feel like that's why we have a cartoon with him, where I'm not trying to influence a 45-year-old man to go fly an airplane because Jive or Josh can fly an airplane. I'm with the story of Wild Blue. We are wanting to encourage children not just to fly airplanes, but to dream without barriers and go after their dreams. And if it happens to be flying airplanes and joining the Air Force, the Marines, the Navy, whatever, and flying, then we've done our job with Wild Blue. That's kind of how we feel. And, the same thing happened with the salute to first responders. No one was doing that. And the first night that we did it at an air show, and it was Rome, Georgia, JLC Management, who started the new air show racing series in which we're involved in. We decided to do this salute to first responders because everyone kept commenting that Wild Blue with his lights on looked like a cop car every time, Scott Scooter Yoke, who flies Quicksilver, he would say, whoop, whoop. He would do that little sound. So I talked to Jay Rabbit, who's a sound person in the industry. And I said, this is what I want to do. Can you help me with the music? And of course, Jay, 30 minutes later has this entire wonderful idea put together for the music. And all I do is add a script of, who's on the field, who's manning the parking. And we wanted to salute these first responders because that's another thing about Wild Blue is he wants to say thank you. And if that means something to a child whose dad is a firefighter, or a mom who's their mom's a sheriff's deputy, then we've influenced them in some way. And we've said thank you. The first night we did this, the next morning on our Facebook, I had so many messages from people telling us thank you that we went, there's our night show forever and ever, because we want to be a part of that. And we've got a couple of things coming up that we're going to do on the Wild Blue Rodeo Facebook and Instagram and Twitter to thank people that we know personally in the first responders. So we've got some things coming up over the next few weeks that we want to say thank you to folks, because we can't do our night show right now. So we'll do it another way. We'll do it the way that we know how, that we can reach more people, and that's through the social media, just like you're doing with what you do, Mean Joe.
Yes, that's perfect. And that's exactly what we're looking for. And just, like I said earlier, you guys that didn't catch this, make sure you get over and you follow the Fly Jive Fly Facebook page, Team Race 11, 360 air shows. These are just a few. They're going to be on there. They're going to be doing stuff. They're going to be staying active. They're going to have lots of stuff going on. And make sure you take the time to get out there and follow some of these pages. I don't expect anybody's going to share like me and Joe does, but at least try.
We share a lot. We like to also go and see what our fellow performers are doing and promote them as well. And that's the goal of Airshow 360 is we see the importance of the Thunderbirds and we see the importance of the Blue Angels and the Heritage Flight Program and all of the demo teams within that and the Navy Tailhook Program. But they have millions of dollars of public affairs behind them. The Rob Hollands, the Nathan Hammonds, the Red Lines, the Matt Yonkins, and Vicky Benzing, another great airshow pilot. We don't have millions of dollars behind us in promotions. So that's our goal with Airshow 360 is we want to promote that group of people. We want to say, hey, look at Chef Pitts over here. He flies mostly in the Southeast. He's fabulous. Go take a look at him. Because that's our goal is we want to make stars of the show. Right. And just like NASCAR made of NASCAR drivers.
That's awesome. I was actually at, and a funny story for me, and I was telling the story a little bit last night. I was at Battle Creek last year, and Susan Dacey was there. And, you know, like I said earlier, I'm a self-proclaimed airplane nerd, so I know who Susan Dacey is. And she's over by the, you know, remember how they have the pit set up with the pull off for you guys on the side there. I'm over there doing something, and she's actually just finished with her Big Steerman, her Barnstormer tour. And she walks through, and I said hi to her, and it just blew her away that I actually knew who she was. And she sat there, me and her talked forever. I mean, we were probably there talking for 40, 45 minutes just about how the day was and what was going on. And she was talking about her airplane, and we were watching part of the air show together, and it was just a really cool experience. And that's how all of these folks are. There's like Lunar said earlier, she've talked to him a couple times. They're just a big family. And that's what's important to me is to make sure that people see that. They see the human side. They see that these are people, and they're out there trying to put on a show so that we can get more and more and more support. I want every air show. You know, we talked earlier about the Battle Creek Air Show being such a good air show for attendance. I want every air show to look like that. I mean, yeah, it makes it a pain in the neck for somebody like me that's trying to get in there and get to do things if there's millions of people. But millions of people is what we need. And right now it's tough. So it's easy for us to jump on Facebook. It's easy for us to jump on YouTube and start searching and get these folks on there and just support whatever they're doing. So it's all about that. All right. So I've had taken up, I think, enough of your guys' time this morning. I want to really appreciate you guys coming on. I want to let you know I really appreciate you guys coming on and taking the time. We're here for you guys. If you need anything from our end, we'll be happy to help out. And I just want to make sure you guys know we're all still here and we appreciate what you do.
Thanks, BJ.
We appreciate the fans 100%. I mean, if Jive and I had to say anything, we would say next show, you see one of us, come up and say hi and tell us that you saw us or heard us with talking with me and Joe. So we know exactly where you found us. We can call him up and go, hey, good job.
Awesome. So don't forget, I'm going to say it one more time. I know you're probably getting tired of hearing it. Make sure you go over and check out the Fly Jive Fly Facebook page. Make sure you check out the Team Race 11 Facebook page, 360 Air Show page, and anything and everything you can get on Air Show people and the folks that are out there doing this, you know, YouTube videos, all that stuff. Share it. We'll share it back. So again, I want to thank Colonel Kerby and his lovely wife, Lunar, for being on the show this morning and taking the time with us out from Las Vegas. And I appreciate all our live viewers. Thank you guys for coming up. And don't forget, we're going to do a quick turnaround here in about 10 minutes. We're going to be starting the Newport 17 build-along video with myself and Chuck Hamilton. And we're going to have a special guest on there today. Don't forget that the coupon code over at Boss USA is still active for N17 build, all caps, no spaces. And you can receive 10% off of your next kit so you can follow along with us. All right. Again, thank you guys so much for being on. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for watching, and happy building.